Welcome to our food forest, folks. We are here in the south of England, growing zone 9A. Our food forest is approximately 20 by 30 metres, and today is the 29th of April that I'm filming this on. And it has been a slow spring, but the food forest has been showing lots of signs of life for a good few weeks now, and things are really starting to get going, so we thought we would share a look around with you. So let's see what we've got. So the strawberries, we have lots of strawberry ground cover, which we transplanted about 3 years ago. No, this will be their third season, I think. And they have spread amazingly well. And they have been bursting into flower over the last couple of weeks. And it is so amazing to see all the flowers forming up, which you know are going to give us beautiful fruits. So yeah, really, really happy with how the strawberries are doing so far this season. We've got a big cherry plum here, and we're hoping we're going to get some cherry plums this season. It had really good blossom. We've got 2 cherry plums, and one of them did blossom a bit before the other. I think this was the first one actually. So potentially this one did lose a bit of fruit from a cold spell, but the other cherry plum has definitely got fruit forming up on it. We've got blueberries here. The flowers are all just coming on the blueberries. Literally everything is blooming at the moment, or has been blooming in the last few weeks. So yeah, this is a blueberry. This is another blueberry here, slightly different variety. Like, you can really see the different colour in the flowers and the leaf. We've got about 5 blueberry plants dotted throughout the food forest, but we do find we generally don't get much to harvest from them because the birds get there first. So we have actually this year planted some new blueberry bushes under cover in our net house as well, just to try and ensure a harvest, because these plants are really happy here. We don't want to move them, and you know, hopefully over time as our canopy fills in, it might get a little more protection and we might get some more fruit as well. This is a family pear tree here, and I've just spotted a little pear forming up here. Oh, there's a few. Wow, there's loads. And this has blossomed beautifully over the last few weeks. It has looked absolutely stunning, and now, as you can see, it is literally covered in fruit forming up. And so by family tree, what that means, if you're not sure, is that it has several different varieties grafted onto one tree. So we have, I think there's 3 or 4 different varieties of pear on this tree, because we weren't sure on our spacing to start with. So we weren't sure how many trees we were actually going to fit in here. So this one just did the job and covered a few different pears all at once. And obviously then it helps to cross-pollinate each other. If you have only got space for one type of fruit tree, then family trees are really good. So if you are growing in a smaller space, yeah, family tree is a really good option for you. So I have been doing lots of planting of small stuff in here over the last couple of weeks. So there are a lot of things going on down low that you can't really see much of yet. But hopefully I'll be able to share more with you as the season goes on. And over here, in amongst the strawberries and the sorrel, I've got quite a few lovage plants which I've just put in. There's one you can see there. And I've been planting out lots of edible lupins. And these are obviously a nitrogen fixer as well, so they have the added benefit of that as well, is potentially giving us a harvest. And then you can just see under this tree, this is some wild garlic, and this is awesome because this is just about to flower, and that's what we want, because I transplanted some wild garlic, a few little clumps dotted around in the food forest about 3 years ago, and it's been slow to get going. Last year it actually got chewed off by a rabbit or something, got in here just as it was about to flower, so we didn't really get much spread of the wild garlic last year, but it's come back through this year, and hopefully it will flower and spread, because we'd be quite happy to have the garlic as a ground cover for the spring. It's an awesome resource, amazing flavour, so yeah, hopefully that will spread over time. We've got a few more clumps around. This is an apple tree here above us, and it's just starting to get going, but it does look a bit bare on the stem, so it'll be interesting to see how this tree goes, because something happened with this one last year. It was covered in beautiful red apples, and I'm not sure if something ate them or they all just dropped, but one day the apples were all there and then the next day they weren't. But we had some really dry conditions leading up to that, so it could have been stress. But yeah, it's not filling out quite as much as I would expect, although there are some lovely fresh buds coming through here that I can see, so that's a good sign. But its blossom is absolutely stunning with the hint of pink in it as well. So we've got great big clumps of comfrey, which is flowering and looking amazing. I love comfrey flowers. The bees and the insects love comfrey flowers. And as you might be able to tell from how we've just got crazy clumps of this everywhere, this is the seeding variety of comfrey, not the Bocking 14. And again, a bit like the wild garlic, I'm happy to let it seed, because we will literally just chop it all down and use it as a biomass accumulator if it gets too much. So it's a win-win really. So yeah, the comfrey can just spread everywhere and, you know, hopefully take over some of the sorrel, which is something that we have a lot of here. And the sorrel's not all bad, it is edible, but we have it on a scale that we don't really need it on quite that much. So now it's quite early in the morning and the dandelions haven't yet come out, but we've had beautiful throws of dandelion all through the food forest, and I've actually been harvesting these and making some dandelion honey, or dandelion syrup you might like to call it, and it is really beautiful and fragrant. So that's been a really nice treat from our food forest over the last couple of weeks. We've got lots of fruit bushes which are just getting going. There's gooseberry here, and look, the flowers are just coming and the fruits are just forming on the gooseberries. So yeah, it's a really exciting time. Everything is just bursting into life. And this is, I think this one's a red currant here, a red or a white currant. Again, just forming up, looking lovely. This is the other cherry plum that I was saying about, and look here, we've got lots of little cherry plums, loads of them in fact. Wow, this could be a good year for cherry plums. Dan will be really happy about that, because this is one of his little childhood memories, is collecting cherry plums. We've got more gooseberries here and here and here and here. We've got gooseberries everywhere. This is another apple tree. Again, the blossom is just looking beautiful at the moment. And Dan gave all of our apple trees a really good formative prune for shaping still, where they're still quite young, our trees. So we planted the food forest in 2019, in the winter of 2019, well, so that January to March. So this is its 5th growing season that we're just going into now. So we're still just really getting everything established. And one of the things that is my main focus for this year. Now that we've got a lot of the trees and the shrubs really getting settled in now, my main focus this year is on a lot of the smaller plants, the kind of underlayers. So I'm really going big on herbs this year, lots of culinary and lots of medicinal herbs as well. And one thing that we transplanted last year into the food forest, which I'm really excited to see coming back, is Solomon's seal. And then we've got a few clumps dotted around, and there is some there. And then this is a beautiful big clump of Solomon's seal here. And my plan with the Solomon's seal is I will actually eventually use the rhizome to make tinctures with, herbal tinctures, because Solomon's seal I believe is really good for joints. So yeah, so looking forward to that. We've got aronia berries here which are just forming their flower buds, and these flower beautifully. They look really nice. But I have to say, the fruit that we have got from them, we've not been that taken with so far, but we'll give them time, we'll give them a chance. Maybe we've always harvested it too early, but it's quite a bitter fruit, and then the birds tend to get the rest, so maybe we just don't get it at the right time. But we've got more currant bushes through here. This is a big currant that I gave a really hard prune to last year because it was kind of taking over this space. This is Ben Nevis. We've got more aronia here. We've got a fig or a couple of fig trees here that are just starting to leaf up again. And we have the figs in this plastic because to get fruit from figs you need to restrict their roots apparently. So we've kind of made like a pot within the ground for the figs to grow on. So that's what we're trying there. But every year so far our winters have been a little bit harsh for the figs, but we'll see over time what happens. So in this area where I've found a few new spaces since we've been pruning and tidying up this year, I'm just trying to add back ground cover plants to maybe take over before the sorrel does. So down here I've been putting in more oregano. So this is where Dan pruned this. What's this one called, Dan?
Justaberry.
Justaberry, that's the one. It's been root layering and it was taking over this whole space and it hadn't really fruited before. So we've given that a really good tidy up, but then it's created all this bare space here. So I've been planting in some oregano, and then I just planted out some cosmos the other day because I'm hoping to bring lots of beautiful flowers and colour into the food forest as well.
Have you seen the Justaberry though? It's covered this year.
Let's have a look, yeah. Oh wow, it is too. Yeah, we weren't sure if maybe it needed a pollination partner because we've only got one of these in here, but yeah, Dan has spotted the fruits forming up, so that's exciting because it's a cross between a gooseberry and a black currant, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, so I think apparently they come out like really large black currants. So Dan tells me anyway. So now I'm hoping that it will find its way, but I've also been planting chamomile out down here. So like I say, lots of smaller layers going in at the moment, which particularly ground cover, which, you know, if I can get them growing strong, I'm hoping might overtake the sorrel a little bit. But yeah, chamomile for harvesting, for making chamomile teas. We've got some mushroom action going on down here. Unfortunately, I don't know really anything about mushrooms yet, but it is something that I would like to learn about more over time. And I am actually going to be putting a mushroom bed of King Stropharia mushrooms into the food forest, hopefully in the next few weeks. I should just have the plugs arriving any day soon. We've got some more, I think that's oregano down here, or it might be marjoram, that one. And then you might have seen in one of my previous videos, I've planted out a whole hedge of elderberries along the back fence here. And they are coming on really well. So you can see they've leafed up beautifully here. and we're going to let them come up and just create a new canopy layer here. And obviously the berries are great for us for harvesting. I work a lot with those for syrups and tinctures and things like that, and the birds will love them, and the flowers obviously of the elderberry are great as well. So we've got horseradish, 2 horseradish plants that I've popped in down here recently. That's the smaller one there. More currant bushes all along the back as well, black currants they are. That's the other horseradish, that one's looking good. This is another black currant here, and again you can see they're all forming up really nicely. It will be interesting to see how they grow and form this year, because yeah, I gave all of the black currants a really good prune last year for the first time. And we'll come back up this way. This is all chervil, a herb called chervil here, which is all just starting to flower. And I'm just going to let that flower and seed, and it can do its thing, and then I'll just cut the paths back through or pull it out wherever it's not needed. But that's a really beautiful herb that I really love to use a lot, so happy to have that in here. We've got lemon balm. Last year I planted lots of little roots of lemon balm everywhere, because I realised it was something I didn't have in the food forest, which was crazy because I love lemon balm tea. So happy to see that the lemon balm is popping up, because I kept thinking it hadn't taken, so I was adding more bits here and there, and yeah, we're going to have a lot of lemon balm now this year. And you might have seen there's more lupins gone under there, so a lot of the trees I've put lupins under this last year. Lavender is something else I've been introducing. Realised we didn't have lavender in the food forest, so there is a lavender plant. And I've just noticed now, one of my perennial kales, which I transplanted a couple of weeks ago, literally in the last day or so has been absolutely stripped by, I don't know if that's slugs or if it's pigeons, but hopefully it will be okay, because its little growing point here is not looking damaged. So they're pretty tough and sturdy, the perennial kales, I find. They can get stripped back and they can bounce back. So yeah, all good there. We've got a little clump of raspberries, and yeah, I haven't even got to the raspberries across the rest of the food forest yet, but they are starting to form up their flowers and buds too. Another beautiful blueberry here, and honestly I'm just amazed by the flowers that are covering everything at the moment. This is the beautiful blossom of one of our cherry trees, and I just actually noticed earlier when we did our pruning in the winter for the apple trees, I think we must have got a bit confused with this, with what this one was, because I've seen now that this one got pruned along with the apples, so hopefully that'll be fine. It's looking good right now, so it's a lovely shape anyway now, so that's all good. And the other thing that I just noticed this morning is our beautiful quince tree, and look at the blossoms covering this. This is by far the most blossom we have had on this quince tree to date. It is absolutely stunning. It almost reminds me more of a magnolia tree. So hopefully we might get a good harvest of quince this year. We've only ever had 1 or 2 quinces from the tree so far. This is a young plum tree that we put in just this winter that Dan had actually, he's working trying a lot with grafts, and he tried to graft a different plum onto this one that we found at a gardening job that we work at. It's a really beautiful big plum. Unfortunately this graft hasn't worked, which is typical because he's grafted about 3 or 4 of these trees that we've got in the polytunnel waiting to be planted out, and all the other ones have taken, but not the one we planted out. So that's fine, we can try again next year. It will just be an opal plum until then. We've got several other opal plums around the food forest. We've got honeyberry. We put a second honeyberry in this year here because we believe that our other honeyberry, which is always a beautiful, beautiful shaped bush and is often covered in flowers but never fruits for us. So we discovered that that probably needed a pollination partner. So we've popped a second honeyberry in. So hopefully next year for us will be the year for honeyberries. So that's an exciting one to try. They're meant to be similar to blueberries, I believe. So yeah, really cool. There's more lupins under this little young fruit tree. There's more lemon balm and herbs and dandelions. And then we're coming up through the bulk of our raspberries here, and we've got red and yellow raspberries, and they are mostly autumn raspberries that we grow. We find that autumn raspberries crop a lot better for us. They're less affected by the birds than the summer raspberries as well. And they're kind of in some ways easier to maintain because you can actually just leave them to do their thing, or you can chop them right back to the ground and let them completely regenerate. So yeah, quite easy to deal with. They do need some control in stopping them just completely spreading everywhere though, but I just tend to trim or mow through the paths now quite regularly, and that's how we're hoping we can keep them all where we want them. This one here, this is actually a summer raspberry, so you can see the difference in how the canes sort of grow. They tend to arch more, and you can see I've actually cleared out most of the dead wood, but you can see like this was dead wood from last year, so that's the bits that you'd want to cut out. But the autumn raspberries kind of grow a bit straighter and taller. So we've got our apricot trees up the top here, 2 apricot trees. This one wasn't quite so strong in the spring. The apricots and the cherry plums are always the first to blossom. And so it's a little bit hit and miss still with us for whether we can grow and get a good crop from the apricots. It just really depends on how our spring is. And this year's spring has been particularly cold and slow, and we've had some late cold snaps. So I don't think we'll be getting anything from this apricot tree. The other one blossomed a bit later, and so we'll see how that goes. We've got some chives down here. They're just about to burst into flower. We've got perennial kale, so this is Taunton Dean. This one's been in at least a year now. So yeah, I'll probably take some side shoots from that and just pop them in the ground and let them grow. We've got strawberries down here. They're one of the woodland varieties there. And I've got another patch of the edible lupins here, which I've just grouped together because I dotted them round underneath most of the trees already, and I still had some left. And also in between these lupins, I've been planting another herb which I'm really excited about, and that's skullcap. That's another medicinal herb that I'm hoping to try this year. So yeah, we'll see how that grows, but like I say, lots of really small stuff at the moment. This is my little Mediterranean herb garden that I've just planted up about 6 weeks ago because we had a bit of a bare space where we've been clearing out some weedy stuff here. And yeah, we've got lots of culinary herbs more so in this area. So yeah, thyme, rosemary, tarragon, there's some apple mint creeping in. The apple mint spreads everywhere here, so that is something we do have to keep in check a little bit. We've got winter savoury, sage. I've also been dotting some of the herbs in here. There's chamomile, and there is more, I'm just trying to find it, there's more of the lovage here. And there's also another herb called skull pit, which is this little one here, which I'm growing for the first time. Again, another medicinal herb. You can see this is a different type of chamomile here. This isn't for teas, this is more so if you wanted to use it for compresses and other uses like that. cosmos. I've put some cosmos in here to try and introduce some lovely bouncing flowers into the area. So yeah, lots of herbs going on down there. If we come over this way, so this here, probably need to start keeping it in check a little bit more, is chocolate mint, and it is beautiful. It's my favourite of the mints that we've got in the food forest. Really, really lovely. But it is spreading as mint does, but that's fine at the minute. Then we've got some clumps of rhubarb over here, and I actually had my first harvest of rhubarb just the other day that we have been enjoying with some coconut custard and dark chocolate into warmed up stewed rhubarb. Beautiful, easy, yummy dessert from our food forest. Yes, I've had a harvest here. This clump of rhubarb was actually given to us, and it used to be in a pot, and this clump here always is the first one to come ready. But then this clump slightly to the left, it grows some beautiful stems of rhubarb, but then it shoots its flower heads up really quickly. So I'm not sure whether I should just be cutting those off or leaving them. I tend to just leave them, let it do its thing. But I've put a few new plants in over time. There's another new rhubarb plant there and here, which I put in only last year, so they can come on and fill any gaps. Another beautiful clump of the Solomon seal here. And Solomon seal actually likes shade, so that's why I've been trying to find some of the more shady patches in our food forest. We've got a little pepper tree here. I can never pronounce the name of it. Let me try. Sichuan pepper. I'm very bad at pronunciations. We did have 2 of these, but unfortunately we lost one last year. I think we are going to have to try and get at least a couple more, because I believe they do need pollination partners, so, or at least male and female plants. And that is the same for my schizandra plant, which I've got down here. So I did start off with 4 of these schizandras. Again, another medicinal berry. They are slow growing plants. But yeah, I started off with 4 of them. I planted 2 out, I think 2 or 3 seasons ago, and they were doing really well. They were about the same size as this plant is now, and then they just died off at the end of last summer. So I'm not sure if it was the drought or if it was voles that had eaten away at the roots, because we do have quite a lot of voles here. So I've planted another one out, and I've still got another one in pots, but I've since realised and remembered and learned that you need to have male and female plants of the schizandra. So, and you can't tell, I don't think, till after they've started flowering, but it's a beautiful vine. It can grow up that tree. It's an investment for the future. We just need to get hold of a few more plants. There's mint going on underneath this tree here, and I think this is a plum tree, another plum tree that we put in. Let's just have a check. I think this was this winter or last winter, Dan?
Last, I think.
Yeah, so this is a plum tree.
Oh, it looks like one of the grafts I did on that one has worked at the top.
Yeah, that's a plum tree from this, I think that's this winter. I don't know. Anyway, it might be a year old. We should know these things, really. Yes, so that's an opal plum with another graft onto it. We've got mint going on here. The other thing that we've introduced recently into the food forest are these little shrubs here, and they are kapow, and it's a, what's the other common name for these, Dan?
Chilean guava?
Chilean guavas, that's it. And they're meant to produce a really nice little fruit or berry, edible berry. So we've got a couple of those dotted in here and another few around the land as well. More of the lupins and strawberries. And actually this space is quite a good example of how you don't have to have a big space to be growing a food forest. Food forests are actually really, really good for small space growing. So in this little patch here, which is probably only about 1 metre square, we've got a fruit tree, we've got potentially fruit bushes, I've got herbs here, this is oregano, we've got lots of strawberries and mint and edible lupins, and then we've actually got some flowers coming through here. This is some echinacea and some foxgloves. There's more herbs right there under the tree. You've got the schizandra as a climbing vine that will go up the tree. Wild dandelions, cosmos. There's actually even a perennial cow plant here. And that is all in a space which is literally about 1 metre square. So food forests are amazing for utilising space, especially if you are limited too. Okay, so I think we're getting round now.
How about this one?
Oh, how could I forget? This is an Asian pear, which this is one you've grafted, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, off the neighbours.
Yeah, so our neighbour has some Asian pears, which I think is probably a nashi. And Dan has grafted this. Was this just onto a normal pear tree rootstock?
Wild pear rootstock.
Wild pear rootstock. And yeah, it's actually had a really good, strong little growth spurt this year. So that is really cool. I've got more lavender down here. There's just strawberries everywhere. There are lots of herbs going into the food forest. There is probably so much that I've missed. We've got goji berries here. They don't actually fruit for us yet, the goji berries, but we're still giving them a try, seeing what happens. But spring, we're just going nearly into the beginning of May. Everything is bursting into life in the food forest right now. It is so beautiful, and we are so happy to see that this space is really feeling like it's coming together now. I hope you've enjoyed this tour today, guys. Don't forget to ask us questions or drop us comments below. Please give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It really helps to boost our videos and get them seen by more people. And we will catch you here again soon. Peace and plants.